Jimin. Lip syncing? At a sound check? Not at the concert, at a sound check. When that clip first started spreading on Twitter, within just a few hours, over 50,000 people had already retweeted it, and half of them weren't ARMY, half of them were people who had been waiting a long time for a moment exactly like this. But before you jump to any conclusions, there is one small detail that almost everyone missed, a detail that actually changes everything. And I promise you, once you know this, you're going to see this whole controversy from a completely different angle. Stay until the end, because the most important part is in the final minutes of this video. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're an ARMY who loves deep analysis, not just drama, but genuinely wants to understand what actually happened, you're in the right place. If this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because content like this that looks at both sides of the story without blindly taking a side is still really rare out there. Alright, let's get into it. We need to flash back for a moment to early April 2026. BTS had just wrapped up 3 historic nights at Goyang Stadium, South Korea, part of the Arirang World Tour, their first world tour after fully reuniting post-military service. 3 nights, over 132,000 fans in attendance, and the K-pop world felt like it paused for a moment just to take it all in. After Goyang, it was Tokyo's turn. Tokyo Dome, 2 nights, April 17 and 18, 2026. But before those concerts even began, before a single song was performed in front of tens of thousands of Japanese fans, a short clip had already exploded across the internet. A clip from a rehearsal session, a sound check. And in that clip, the name Jimin was pulled straight into the middle of a storm. Around mid-April, while BTS was in the middle of technical preparations for the Tokyo Dome concerts, a short video started circulating, allegedly recorded by someone who attended a paid soundcheck session, or a soundcheck event, which was sold as a separate ticket at a higher price than a regular concert ticket. In the video, Jimin could be seen moving on stage, his mouth following the rhythm of the song, but the dominant sound coming through the speakers was clearly an AR track, meaning a pre-recorded audio playback, not a live vocal from a microphone in his hand. The clip was uploaded to Twitter/X immediately. Within minutes, it had spread to TikTok, Reddit, and even the discussion forums in Korea. And the internet's response? Exactly what you'd expect. Fast, loud, and not very interested in hearing both sides. On the side doing the criticizing, comments poured in hard. International netizens on Twitter wrote things like, "Lip syncing even at rehearsal is crazy," a tweet that went on to rack up tens of thousands of likes in just a single day. In Korea, the reaction was even sharper. Some Korean netizens questioned whether it was fair to charge premium prices for soundcheck tickets only to receive a performance backed almost entirely by a pre-recorded track. They called it unfair to fans who had sacrificed both money and time for what they believed would be something more genuine. Kboo, one of the biggest K-pop news platforms in the world, quickly published an article about it that became one of the most read pieces on their platform that day. Other entertainment outlets in Korea and internationally followed suit. Within one day, Jimin was trending across multiple countries, but not for reasons anyone would want. And this wasn't the first time BTS had faced a live singing controversy. Earlier, on the opening night at Goyang, there had been an audio incident that briefly triggered similar accusations, though many later pointed out it appeared to be a technical lag from the Weverse live stream rather than actual lip syncing. But the combination of 2 controversies in such close succession made the atmosphere far more heated. And here's the part that almost no other channel has actually talked about. First, what exactly is a sound check in the context of a large-scale tour like the Arirang World Tour? A sound check at a stadium-scale concert, especially one with a setup like Tokyo Dome's 360-degree stage design, is not simply a warm-up singing session. It is an extremely complex technical process. The audio team needs to calibrate the sound levels across hundreds of speakers distributed throughout the entire stadium. They need to make sure there's no feedback, no delay, and that the live vocals from each member are balanced from every single angle, from the front row all the way up to the highest tiers at the back. In a process like this, artists are often asked to lip sync or sing at minimal volume, not because they're incapable of singing live, but because the audio team actually needs to hear the reference track coming through the speakers, not the artist's voice, in order to properly calibrate the system. This is not a secret in the global music industry. Artists like Beyoncé, Taylor Swift, and even legendary rock bands do the exact same thing during sound checks for their major concerts. But because we live in an era where anyone can record anything and upload it in a matter of seconds, a technical moment that was never meant to leave the building suddenly becomes public consumption. Second, who was actually inside that sound check session? Here's where it gets interesting. Paid soundcheck events are marketed as an exclusive experience. Fans pay extra to get closer to BTS before the show. But this is exactly where the expectation gap happens. Many fans assumed they'd be getting a full live performance, when in reality, a soundcheck is still fundamentally a technical session. And not every promoter or label does a clear enough job of explaining what that actually means when selling those tickets. Is this a communication problem? Possibly. Does it mean Jimin was lip-syncing with the intention of deceiving his audience? That's a question whose answer is nowhere near as simple as the internet made it seem. But wait, because there is one more thing that almost everyone overlooked in this entire controversy, and it's honestly the most fascinating part of all of this. In the middle of all that noise, in the middle of thousands of tweets, articles, and reaction videos flooding every platform, Jimin didn't stay silent. And what's even striking, the way he responded had nothing to do with words. Let's get into that now. If you've been following Jimin for a long time, not just since Face or Filter, but since the debut era, the Wings era, the Map of the Soul era, you already know one thing that has been completely consistent about this person. Jimin is a perfectionist, almost to a fault when it comes to his own stage performances. This isn't an exaggerated claim, it's something we can trace through years of concrete evidence. In BTS behind-the-scenes documentary footage, Jimin is consistently the member who stays the longest after everyone else is finished, going back to repeat choreography over and over again. In previous concerts, there are moments caught on camera where he corrects himself mid-performance, even while standing in front of thousands of people. In an old interview, he once said, "I can't rest easy if I feel like my performance wasn't good enough." And we know how he responded throughout the Goyang concerts, the first night performed under heavy rain, where the stage conditions were far from ideal, yet he gave everything he had without hesitation. And then at the final night in Goyang, when the weather finally cleared and the sky was no longer drenching thousands of ARMY who had been standing there loyally through it all, Jimin stepped to the mic and said, with a voice that carried the weight of everything he'd held back, "Are you having fun today? I can see you so clearly because it's not raining. Thank you for waiting, and I've missed you so much." Those are not the words of someone who doesn't care about the quality of their performance. Those are the words of someone who genuinely feels every moment shared with their fans as something irreplaceable. And this is the biggest contradiction at the heart of the lip sync controversy. How do you reconcile someone who is visibly emotional on stage because they can finally see their fans clearly with the accusation that they don't take their live performances seriously? The answer is simple. You can't, because those two things cannot exist in the same person at the same time. Now we've reached the most important part. At the Tokyo Dome concert on the night of April 17th, 2026, just days after the controversy had exploded across every platform, Jimin walked out onto that stage, and he sang. Not halfway, not hiding behind an AR track, he sang. Fan cam after fan cam started appearing online, thousands of videos from every possible angle inside Tokyo Dome, and one thing became immediately clear to anyone watching.
Jimin's vocals sounded different from the studio recordings, slightly rougher in certain spots, emotionally deeper. There was a small tremor in the higher notes, the kind that only appears when someone is actually pushing their vocal cords to their full capacity. Those are the signs of live singing, and the army who were there inside Tokyo Dome knew exactly what the difference felt like. On social media, the narrative began to shift. Tweets that had been full of harsh criticism started getting buried under thousands of replies from people who were now defending him instead. The Tokyo Dome fan cams became real, undeniable proof, and you can't argue against that kind of evidence with words alone. But beyond the vocal defense, there was one moment in the middle of that concert that made people stop debating altogether. As Jimin stood at the edge of the stage, a single spotlight falling directly on his face, looking out at the crowd, 55,000 people inside Tokyo Dome screaming his name, he smiled. Not a smile for the camera, not a smile that was scripted into the choreography, but the smile of someone who knew deep down that they had just proven something, without saying a single word. And if you've ever been a fan of anyone in your life, you know exactly what that moment feels like to watch, when someone proves themselves not through statements or press releases, but through action, on a stage, in front of tens of thousands of people. The controversy didn't completely disappear, of course. The internet never works that way. There will always be people looking for something to criticize, waiting for the moment when someone falls. But after Tokyo Dome, after 2 nights of performances that were already being called some of the strongest on the Arirang World Tour so far, all of that noise slowly faded into the background of a much bigger story. BTS is back, and Jimin is back as the most complete version of himself. So what can we actually take away from all of this? Controversies like this aren't new in the music industry, especially in K-pop, where expectations around live performance are already set at a nearly impossible standard. And in the age of social media, where a 15-second clip can tear down a reputation that took years to build, we all need to be a little slower to reach our conclusions. That doesn't mean criticism has no place. That doesn't mean questions about live performance quality aren't valid. But there is a massive difference between criticism rooted in facts and context and an attack rooted in assumption and a desire to watch someone fall. Jimin at the Tokyo Dome soundcheck may well have been lip-syncing, but in the technical context we just walked through, that is not proof that he can't sing. It's proof that there are processes happening behind the curtain that most people simply don't understand. And Jimin, on the first night at Tokyo Dome, that was his answer. No press release, no official statement, just a stage, a microphone, and his own voice. Now it's your turn. After seeing all of this from both sides, do you think this controversy was fair, or was it completely blown out of proportion? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you think, especially if you have a perspective that's different from what I covered today. And if this video gave you a new way of looking at things, share it with one person you think needs to see it. That's honestly the best way to support content like this. See you in the next one. Purple.